One evening, billionaire Andrew Harrison takes his son Lucas, who is partially paralyzed from an accident, to a fancy restaurant. Lucas wants to invite Diana Evans, a black waitress, to dance, but the restaurant manager strongly objects. Diana defies the manager and agrees to dance with Lucas, an act that changes Andrew's perception of both his son and Diana. Later, Andrew discovers that Diana is the co-founder of Freedom Steps, a rehabilitation program for disabled children using free dance. Initially rejecting the idea of funding, Andrew gradually recognizes the value of the project and commits to supporting it. Lucas gradually recovers, confidently leading exercises, becoming an inspiration for many other children. Andrew also learns a lesson in humility, stepping back to let his son lead. The program spreads, marking the success of a deeply human journey.
If you find this video interesting and brings some lessons to you, please click the like and subscribe buttons to encourage us to bring you more meaningful stories. And now let's listen to the story together.
A heavy silence draped over the most luxurious space in New York City. The Le Rêve restaurant nestled in the bustling heart of Manhattan, amidst shimmering lights and rushing crowds. In that moment, everything seemed to freeze, the laughter, the clinking of cutlery. Even the gentle piano music dimmed to a whisper, leaving behind an uncanny stillness, as if no one dared to breathe too loudly. At a meticulously arranged table, Lucas Harrison, a 10-year-old boy with wide, trembling eyes, sat in a specially designed wheelchair that supported his legs bound by stiff metal braces. Since the tragic accident that left him partially paralyzed in both legs, this was the first time his father, Andrew Harrison, a powerful millionaire businessman, had taken him out for a public dinner. Lucas turned his gaze toward Diana Evans, the restaurant's only black waitress, who carried herself with a gentle yet resolute grace in every movement. The boy's eyes followed the flowing piano notes, his heart swelling with an indescribable emotion. Suddenly, an overwhelming thought surged within him, making it impossible to hold back any longer. With trembling hands, Lucas shyly reached out toward Diana, hesitating as if to ask, "Would you like to dance with me?" Instantly, the atmosphere in the restaurant thickened with tension. Thomas Grant, the impeccably dressed manager in a black suit, his face cold and eyes sharp as knives, stepped forward and sternly said, "Mr. Harrison, please control your son. This is not a place for children to perform or entertain." His words fell like a bucket of cold water, shocking everyone present. Elegant diners turned their eyes toward Lucas, then stared sharply at Diana. The boy looked at his father, hoping for support, but Andrew only furrowed his brow quietly, pressing his lips together as if to avoid unnecessary trouble. "Lucas, sit down," Andrew commanded in a deep, pressured tone. It wasn't the first time Lucas had been reprimanded like this, but this time, the rejection felt heavier than ever. This was the first time Andrew had brought his son out in public since that fateful day 2 years ago, and he was determined not to let this happen again. Diana stood still, her eyes briefly meeting the manager's gaze, then shifting to Andrew and finally resting tenderly on Lucas's hands, still outstretched in invitation. Over 5 years working at this restaurant, Diana had learned to disappear in the eyes of many wealthy customers, especially those like Andrew Harrison, who only saw her as part of the background behind the service counter. Unexpectedly, Diana spoke softly, "Mr. Grant, my shift is over. I'm going home now." She removed her apron, folded it neatly on a tray, then looked at Lucas with a warmth she had never shown before. "I can't dance while wearing an apron." Andrew suddenly stood up, shocked and angry. "What do you think you're doing?" he barked, unable to believe the boldness of a waitress. Diana held his gaze steadily. "I'm accepting this young gentleman's invitation, sir." Before anyone could react, Lucas slowly, and with effort, stood up, placing his metal-braced foot onto the glossy floor. The harsh scraping sound echoed sharply, but Diana did not rush to follow or support him. Instead, she adjusted her steps gently, matching Lucas's movements, letting him lead. At a nearby table, a woman whispered, "She'll surely be fired for this." But Andrew's eyes seemed frozen in place, his mind replaying a distant memory. The image of his wife Elizabeth dancing with Lucas in the living room came vividly to him. "It's not about perfection," Elizabeth had said. "It's about connection." Lucas's awkward, yet confident steps touched everyone watching. They felt something beyond the usual strictness and formality of the restaurant. A true connection. A small flame flickering in the boy's eyes, gradually spreading from fear and hesitation to quiet determination and shy pride. After 3 steps, Diana gently guided Lucas back to the table. She whispered to him, "Thank you for inviting me to dance." Her voice was soft and sincere, as if speaking to an adult. Before leaving, Andrew stopped her. "What's your full name?" "Diane Evans, sir." Andrew nodded slowly, then took a business card from his suit pocket. "Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Come to my office." The entire restaurant held its breath, awaiting the reaction of Andrew Harrison, the powerful man who had never once refused anything in his life. In the corner, Lucas watched Diana leave and asked his father, with innocent yet probing eyes, "Dad, why did you do that to her, Andrew?" Andrew looked at his son, and in that moment, he no longer saw a fragile child, but a whole person with needs and dreams he had ignored for 2 years. Dinner continued in silence, with few words spoken. But Andrew Harrison's eyes held a storm within, and Diana left with a gentle smile, carrying the quiet strength few could see in the small woman who was a waitress. The next morning, Diana Evans stood before the gleaming glass facade of Harrison Enterprises, a towering skyscraper reflecting the brilliant spring sunlight of New York City. Her simple outfit, a pristine white blouse, paired with a navy skirt, had never felt more fitting as she stepped into a world completely different from the dinner service she had worked the night before. Yet inside, Diana felt no fear or hesitation. Instead, a steadfast determination forged through years of facing challenges and prejudice burned within her. Clutching her small handbag tightly, she walked confidently to the reception desk, where a receptionist regarded her with a scrutinizing gaze, a silent assessment of social class and status. "Diana Evans here to see Mr. Andrew Harrison," she said softly, her voice calm, but carrying an undercurrent of authority. The receptionist tilted her head and quickly dialed a number on the phone. 27th floor. Mr. Harrison will see you now." As the elevator carried Diana from the ground floor to the 27th curious and surprised glances, followed her an African-American woman in a modest suit, walking the polished hallways reserved for the elite executives. Such a sight was rare enough to draw attention, and she knew it well. The expansive waiting room adorned with expensive artwork and marble floors made Diana feel as if she had stepped into an entirely different world from the Bronx where she grew up. Suddenly, a sharp female voice broke the silence beside her. "He fired you, didn't he?" Diana turned to see a middle-aged woman with cold eyes, but a hint of sympathy. "I suppose so," the woman continued. "We're the ones who pay the price when wealthy clients make calls." The woman introduced herself as Ms. Winters, Mr. Harrison's executive assistant. She explained that employees who failed to know their place were quickly weeded out in this environment. Diana smiled faintly, unfazed. "And where exactly is that place?" Before an answer came, Ms. Winters' phone rang. "Mr. Harrison, we'll see you now." Andrew Harrison's office took up half the floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a sweeping view of the bustling city below. Andrew stood by the window, arms crossed, eyes distant, as if surveying a world that belonged solely to him. When Diana entered, he turned his expression serious and somewhat cold. "You're Diana Evans, correct? Thank you for coming." He gestured to a chair beside his desk, signaling for her to sit. The air grew heavy, as though he used silence as a tactic to compel her to reveal more. After a moment, he asked, "What is your educational background?" Diana answered candidly, "I hold a bachelor's degree in child development from New York University, and am pursuing a master's in special education. However, I paused my studies to care for my ill sister." Andrew looked slightly surprised. "So, you're working as a waitress?" "At present, I juggle 3 jobs: restaurant server, bookstore, employee on weekends, and tutoring when I can," Diana said firmly. Andrew pulled a file from his desk and opened it. "I've researched you, Ms. Evans. You co-founded Freedom Steps, a program for children with motor disabilities based on free-form dance, combined with neuroscience." Diana straightened a bit tense, but composed. "Yes, my sister Zoe and I started it 6 years ago. Now we face the risk of closure due to lack of funding." Andrew studied her, his gaze cold but shifting. "Then why are you here today? To ask me for money?" Diana's voice was soft. "I'm not here to ask for money, Mr. Harrison. I came because you invited me." Andrew chuckled lightly without joy. "Very well. You can work for me as a therapist assistant for my son." Diana was stunned. "A waitress invited to work in your family?" Andrew's seriousness didn't waver. "Yes. My son needs someone who not only monitors, but truly walks alongside him. And what you did yesterday, that was more than a dance." Diana quietly met his eyes, sensing beneath the powerful exterior a desperate, lost father. "I can pay you 5 times your current salary," he said. But Diana stood up and replied firmly, "No. I don't work for people who see my skin color or social class before my abilities. And I don't work for those who want to buy sympathy." Andrew was stunned, as if never hearing such a firm refusal. Diana moved toward the door, then stopped. Lucas doesn't need more specialists. He needs space to lead his own life. She placed a business card on the desk. This is our Freedom Steps schedule. The first session is free. If you want to bring Lucas, you know where to find us. The door closed behind her, leaving Andrew alone in the room, facing a life-changing decision he had never imagined. That day, after meeting Andrew Harrison, Diana left the skyscraper with a mix of emotions she could hardly describe. On her way back to her small Bronx apartment, she reflected on what had just happened, a rare opportunity, but one filled with challenges. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. As a Black woman in an environment where values like hers were still not fully embraced, Diana had faced countless prejudices and limits. But today, with determination and faith in her mission, she felt she had taken a great step forward. At the Freedom Steps Community Center, which Diana and her sister Zoe had founded, the atmosphere buzzed as usual. Children wearing mobility aids, tentative steps following the gentle rhythm of music, created a vivid picture of hope and resilience. Zoe greeted Diana excitedly. "There's a Bentley outside, and guess who's in it? Andrew. Harrison. I can't believe he actually came here." Diana smiled softly, eyes sparkling with quiet confidence. "I knew he would come." Bathed in sunlight streaming through large studio windows, they watched the luxury car slowly pull up. Lucas Andrews' son stepped out of the back seat, eyes full of curiosity and slight worry. Especially striking was Andrew's casual attire, khakis, and a sweater, rather than his usual suit, signaling a shift within him. Andrew entered the center looking uncertain, but resolute. He had never been to a place like this without the glamour of modern offices, but filled with the warmth of people striving daily to break down the barriers of disability. "What have you done?" Zoe asked Diana quietly, as they observed from afar. "Just a father who listens to his child. Never underestimate the power of a determined child," Diana replied, her eyes never leaving Andrew's son, who watched the other children intently. Stepping into the class, Lucas seemed energized by the friendly and open atmosphere. He observed a girl in a wheelchair, spinning in circles to the music, a boy with prosthetic legs, attempting complex steps. It all appeared chaotic, yet carried a unique order only understood by those there. "It looks so chaotic," Andrew exclaimed, still awkward. Diana smiled and explained, "It has structure, but not the kind you're used to. This is a method based on free movement and fostering independence." She turned to Lucas. "Would you like to join?" Lucas nodded, but looked at his father with apprehension. Andrew encouraged him. "Go ahead. I'll be right here." The following days witnessed a transformation in both Andrew and Lucas. Andrew, once proud of his elite rehabilitation team, began to realize that rigid methods controlling every step only confined his son. Zoe gently asked him, "Do you really believe those specialists have done everything they can to help your son Andrew?" With silent eyes thoughtful. Then one day, Freedom Steps welcomed a special guest, Elaine Carter, a neuroscientist formerly at Harvard and a leading expert on neuroplasticity. She came with a mission to support and study non-traditional motor recovery methods. Like Diana's, the meeting between Andrew and Elaine grew tense as she revisited research proposals he had repeatedly declined. Though disappointed, she remained hopeful about the program's potential. Diana stood quietly nearby, full of resolve. She knew that truly changing Lucas's life required not only personal change from his father, but wider acceptance of this unique approach. The first day of classes at the Freedom Steps Center was nothing short of a celebration for everyone there. Gentle morning light streamed through large windows, illuminating the eager and radiant faces of children with disabilities, their parents, volunteers, and staff. Andrew Harrison stood quietly at the edge of the studio, dressed casually, his eyes revealing a mix of confusion and hope. He had never imagined he would set foot in a place where the rigid rules of finance and power seemed to fade away. Lucas, with his braces lightly strapped to his legs, took slow steps, attentively observing his classmates. For the first time, he was free to immerse himself in a community without judgment or pressure. Diana approached with a gentle smile, whispering, "You'll see. There are no absolute standards here, only connection and freedom." Soft music filled the room, and the dancing began with natural rhythms, free of constraints. Lucas stepped into the circle, his eyes gradually shining with growing confidence. Suddenly summoning all his courage, he removed one of his leg braces. Everyone around paused, watching intently. Lucas took a deep breath, and then stepped forward, his first step not guided by anyone else, but fully his own. Cheers erupted from children and parents alike. Cameras flashed. This was a moment no one would forget. Andrew watched his son, tears streaming down his face, a surge of pride, sorrow, and regret for having overlooked what truly mattered. When a reporter approached asking about rumors that his charity had refused to fund this program 3 times before Andrew faced the greatest choice of his life, would he continue to hold tight to his ego power and status? Or would he open his heart, accept and support his son and these children in their pursuit of freedom and happiness? His gaze fixed on Lucas, absorbed in his fresh steps. For the first time, Andrew understood that true strength is not control, but knowing when to let go and allow others to lead. "We commit to fully funding Freedom Steps for the next 5 years," Andrew announced to the press. "And I insist that Ms. Diana retain full control over the program and methods, with no interference allowed to compromise their mission." A smile blossomed on Diana's lips. Her eyes sparkled with hope and resolve. That day marked not only a turning point for Lucas, but also a profound shift in the heart and mindset of a father, a wealthy and powerful man. Amidst the resounding applause and flashing cameras, Lucas continued his tentative but determined steps on the studio floor. Each small footfall was a silent declaration of freedom, of self-belief, a miracle born from acceptance and love. Andrew Harrison stood motionless, his tear-filled eyes unable to hide the transformation. Once a distant father focused only on therapy regimens and medical reports, he now saw his son through an entirely new lens, a vibrant, brave individual who most importantly could lead himself. The cameras captured every moment, telling a story not just of physical recovery, but of hope, reborn perseverance, and love. After Lucas's small performance, a young reporter stepped forward, microphone raised. Mr. Harrison, rumors say your charity had declined to fund Freedom Steps 3 times. Could you explain your reasons and share your thoughts on today's event? The room fell silent. Andrew looked at his son, whose bright smile seemed untouched by the outside world. What came next was a sincere, humble confession rarely heard from a man like him. The hardest thing for someone like me is admitting when I'm wrong. He paused, his warm voice resonating throughout the studio. Freedom Steps will receive full funding from our foundation for the next 5 years, on the condition that Ms. Diana Evans retains absolute authority over the program and its methods. No outside interference will be tolerated. A cheer swept through the room. Zoe rushed to embrace Diana, tears of joy streaming down her face. Lucas looked at his father with gratitude, as if granting him a chance to start anew. In that moment, Andrew was no longer the head of a powerful financial empire. He was simply a father who had learned the most precious lesson of his life. True power lies not in wealth or status, but in the ability to step back and let those with faith and passion lead the way. The cameras shifted toward the center's members and families, their eyes gleaming with hope, their smiles brimming with belief in a brighter future. Time passed, and the Freedom Steps Center became a warm home for hundreds of children with disabilities across the city. Under Diana Evans's leadership, the program continuously grew, becoming not only a place for physical rehabilitation, but also a launch pad for the children's confidence and independence. Andrew Harrison, who had once stood on the sidelines of his son's life, now became an indispensable part of this new journey. He was no longer the distant billionaire, but a father who listened closely and learned from his son and those who had opened new paths for Lucas. Lucas made steady progress, walking more confidently with his light braces, gradually shedding the invisible chains of his father's overprotection. He began to lead exercises inspiring other children and becoming a young ambassador for the program. Moreover, Andrew's presence at board meetings and his quiet attentiveness to scientific reports on neuroplasticity and new therapies surprised and impressed many. The once cold billionaire transformed learning, engaging, even participating in discussions on policy and program development strategies. Diana and Zoe continued to lead Freedom Steps with relentless innovation. Supported by the Harrison Foundation's funding, the center expanded, opening new branches in other cities. Each space was thoughtfully designed, incorporating feedback from families and children to ensure it was welcoming and suitable. At the inauguration of the largest center, Lucas stood center stage wearing only a light brace and carrying a small cane, leading a group of children in a special dance routine. He was confident and vibrant, his eyes shining with belief and hope. Beside the event, Diana and Andrew stood together. He looked at his son, then at Diana, eyes full of gratitude. "You no longer need me to hold you," Andrew said softly. "No." Diana smiled. "But he still needs you to encourage and support him as he walks his own path." The father-son bond had evolved from protection to respectful companionship and trust. 1 year later, Freedom Steps had spread to many other cities, receiving numerous national awards for innovation in pediatric rehabilitation and special education. Diana was honored as the outstanding innovator in pediatric rehabilitation, and Lucas became a symbol of willpower for thousands of children with disabilities nationwide. Andrew, a man once bound to power and wealth, had finally learned life's deepest lesson. Leadership isn't always about leading from the front. Sometimes it means stepping back to let others lead with their faith and passion. Month by month, year by year, Freedom's steps grew beyond a training center into a community of love and sharing. Children who were once timid gradually opened their hearts, gaining confidence in every step and gesture. Parents witnessed not only their children's physical recovery, but also a renewed spirit and belief in life. Andrew Harrison, once distant and cold, in expressing affection now treasured every moment at the center with his son. He regularly visited, quietly observing sessions and listening to experts and other parents. One day, at a Harrison Foundation board meeting, Andrew stood and declared that I want to dedicate all our resources and time to this project. We need to expand this model nationwide, not just for my son, but for thousands of other children. Those who once doubted him were now astonished by this profound change. Diana and Zoe became trusted partners co-managing the program independently, as initially agreed. Throughout this journey, Lucas was not only an excellent student, but also a spirited ambassador, inspiring the disability community. He frequently appeared at events, sharing his story of overcoming adversity and encouraging peers to keep striving. The image of Lucas gently leading friends and performing graceful dances despite using assistive devices became a symbol of strength and hope. Children at the center learned not only to move, but to trust themselves to build dreams and long for a full life. Diana, with her passionate heart, closely followed every step of the program's growth. She was not only the founder, but also the spiritual mother to all the children, pouring in limitless love and dedication. One peaceful afternoon, after Lucas and his friends finished practice, Diana stood beside Andrew, looking at the boy with tender eyes. "You once thought you could control everything," Diana said, "but now you've learned that to truly love and help, sometimes you must learn to step back." Andrew gently nodded. "I have found life's most precious lesson, not in boardrooms or trading floors, but here in the small steps of my son." Years passed, and the story of Andrew Harrison, Diana Evans, and young Lucas became a symbol of a quiet revolution and where compassion, respect, and humility sparked miraculous change. Diana was not only the founder of the Freedom Steps program, but also a living testament to the power of perseverance and faith in human dignity. She taught the world that every individual, regardless of circumstance, deserves empowerment and the chance to grow in their own unique way. Lucas, once a boy confined by leg braces, became an inspiration to thousands of children across the country. His tentative first steps were not just a journey beyond disability, but a symbol of an indomitable spirit that refuses to be defeated by adversity. Andrew Harrison, a man once bound to power and absolute control, finally realized that true strength lies not in dominating others, but in the courage to let go and allow loved ones to lead. He learned profound lessons in humility, empathy, and the true responsibility of a father and a leader. Their story is a powerful reminder that respect and empowerment of others form the foundation of sustainable growth. Leadership is not always about leading from the front, but knowing when to step back, learn, and follow new visionaries. True innovation and success arise from companionship, perseverance, and compassion. Life gains meaning when we let others shine in their own way, rather than imposing our own molds upon them. 1 year later, Freedom Steps had expanded to 3 major cities, becoming a model for rehabilitation centers nationwide. Diana received prestigious awards for innovation in pediatric rehabilitation, while Lucas became a young ambassador, spreading the message of willpower and the right to live fully. And Andrew. He was no longer just a successful businessman, but a father, a friend, and a leader who had found his true path, the path of empathy, humility, and unconditional love. This story closes, but the message of courage to change, respect, and granting freedom to others continues to resonate in every heart, igniting quiet yet powerful revolutions that open new horizons for the future.